Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Say Something Nice. Wait, what are you talking about? The show where I take NBA news that you probably don't care about and give it to you anyway. Now, with everything going on with free agency and trades and stuff, there's a lot of stuff that's flown under the radar. A lot of the stories you only care about if you're hardcore fans of the teams that are involved or the players that are involved. One such case was the signing of Zhou Qi by the Houston Rockets. Qi is a Chinese player who was drafted in the 2016 draft, and much to my surprise personally, and I want to say everybody's surprise, he's coming over way sooner than anticipated. Qi is a 7'2" center. Good. He can shoot. That's good. He's very fluid. That's good. And he's shown a lot of great potential blocking shots, handling the ball, rebounding in traffic, all kind of because of his size. And he has a good frame in terms of his flexibility and mobility. He's not a stiff. The bad thing about his frame is that he weighs maybe 20 more pounds than I do, and I'm maybe 6 foot, with shoes on a good day. That's bad. He's listed at 218, but I take that with a grain of salt. The other thing that we have to take with a grain of salt with him is his age. He's listed at 21. Some people are not quite sure if he's actually 21. He might be a little bit older. It's just an issue with some of the international players coming out of markets that don't have the same establishment that we do in terms of tracking the athletes. So it's tough to tell what he's going to become. So the reason I'm talking about Qi is not because I think he's some phenomenal, fantastic prospect. So here we go with the player comparisons, and you all know the rule. If it's a white player, you have to compare it to another white player. If it's a black player, you have to compare it to another black player. I hate it. Everybody who talks about Qi talks about Yao, and I think it's dumb. But that said, I'm going to talk about Yao for a second. The difference between Qi and Yao is that the reason that we were so excited about Yao Ming is that he came out as a great, absolutely phenomenal prospect. He went number 1 overall, and he was projected to be a great player. And it turns out that was correct. He was a great player. He had a lot of injuries, but before his injuries, he was an MVP caliber player. Some people disagree with that, but if you actually go look at the numbers and you look at how he was in his prime when he was healthy, he measures out to be, assuming he could have maintained that, an MVP caliber player. So he's in the Hall of Fame. Great player. Qi does not project to be a Hall of Fame MVP caliber level player. He projects to be a pretty good player. Let's go back a little bit. When the Knicks picked Kristaps Porzingis, I was huge on Porzingis because I looked at him. I saw someone who was a 7-footer who could shoot. If you are 7 feet and you could shoot, you will play in this league. So when they picked Porzingis, now I had no idea he was going to turn into Porzingis, but I thought he was going to at least be a good, solid player because he's 7 feet tall and could shoot. Qi, not as good, but in a similar vein. He's 7'2", and he has really good touch for someone his size, and he should, in time, be able to stretch it out to the 3-point range. So he's another 7-footer who can shoot, which, if you're 7 feet tall and you could shoot, you will find a spot in this league. Especially since he's not as stiff, like I said before, so he's not, slow on defense. He is a defensive liability because of his slight frame. He will get bodied in the post until he puts muscle on. He will get bodied in the post until he puts muscle on. But he's not slow on defense. We could switch, and he could play in the modern NBA. Okay, so he's a good prospect, but he's not a great prospect. I expect him to be a solid NBA player, assuming he could stay healthy, and assuming that he has the work ethic. The reason, though, that I'm so excited to see Qi come over is a little bit grander than just the player. And, I'm not a Rockets fan. I'm a Spurs fan, so actually I don't want to see the Rockets do well. But one of the reasons that I'm so excited about Qi is because he comes from China. So let's talk just a little bit about why that's important. Outside of the United States, probably the biggest NBA market is China. So, and actually, in terms of raw numbers, they might even be bigger. But just in terms of, the U.S., the NBA caters to the U.S. first, but China's probably second. The problem that we've seen is that when Yao Ming came over, and then we had E come over, it seemed like, okay, now there's this wave of Chinese players. Yao and the NBA and a lot of people did a lot of great work in kind of building a basketball infrastructure that they can kind of take back to China to kind of help build the basketball culture over there. So we thought, okay, well, maybe we'd see some more prospects coming out. And then whenever there's international ball or you see like these Nike Hoop Summits and all this stuff, you see these players come out who look very promising, very talented, and then we don't hear from them, and then they never come over, and then 5 years later you're like, oh, whatever happened to, such and though, and then you look it up and they're not playing basketball anymore or something like that. So there's been this void of Chinese stars in the NBA, and I for one think that's an absolute shame, because if China's going to be the next great market for the NBA, it helps to have Chinese stars in the league. Just like anything else, people want to see themselves represented in whatever it is that they're consuming. So be it movies, TV, music, any type of media, entertainment, whatever they're consuming. So if we were to have another Chinese star, it does not have to be Yao Ming level, because it won't be. It just won't be. Let's temper those expectations now. It doesn't have to be that level, but even if somebody comes over and is a solid Chinese player in the league, that makes a huge difference. I can tell you for one that where I'm from, the Central Valley, Chuck Hayes was from the city that I'm from, and the fact that he made it to the league, and he wasn't a superstar or anything like that, he wasn't a star, he was a good solid role player, but the fact that he was in the league generated so much interest in people that were not even basketball fans in the local area. And so that can happen in China, where they're already basketball crazy. So imagine that if we can have a constant, steady diet of Chinese stars. I am all about the league taking over the globe. It's very diabolical sounding, but I'm all about basketball globalizing, because it's already happening. It's super exciting. It opens up the talent pool, for one, so we get better basketball in the NBA, because now the talent pool is everybody on the earth instead of just, the USA or anything like that. So it opens up the talent pool, but also it kind of opens up the borders and allows us to share basketball and our experience with everybody, which is very exciting. For me personally, as a basketball fan, I love to see that. I love just the way that basketball has kind of grown, and I think that will be accelerated in China, at least, if we keep having Chinese stars. So that's why I'm super excited to see Qi come over. That's why this little tiny story that you might have missed is really important to me. If we can conquer that market, and if the NBA kind of comes out as because there's a little bit of competition about which Western sport I should say, because of course, China has their own sports culture. It's just, I'm talking about which of the sports that are going to be imported are going to reign supreme. Right now it's basketball, soccer's getting more popular over there as well. So I would like to see basketball as king over there. Then that just leaves us, a couple other places, and then basketball will rule the world, which is what we're looking for, right? So anyway, hope you enjoyed. Keep your eye out for Qi, and keep your eye out for little tiny stories that you want to share. What are your favorite stories of this free agency period? It could be anything. It could be any of the big trades. I'll be happy to talk big trades with you, big free agency things. I'm not just talking about the little things. But if you have any little stories that you're interested in, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. Let me know. I'd love to hear. There's just so much going on in this time period in the NBA that unless you're paid to do it, you can't keep up with everything. So I know I can't. So if you have something, let me know. I'm going to also link my basketball blog in the description below. There I'll be doing a little bit more free agency, trade talk, kind of usual stuff. But I did want to kind of cherry pick this little tiny story that might have passed over your head. So thank you for watching, and until next time, y'all take care, and what are you talking about?